Imagine for a moment you are standing before a still lake at dawn. The water reflects the sky like a silent mirror. No wind stirs. The trees along the shore stand in holy witness. Not a single ripple disturbs the sacred calm. It is here, in this stillness, that something ancient within you begins to remember. As Emmet Fox once taught, divine truth is never loud. It does not shout, does not demand. It waits, patiently, lovingly. Like a well of pure water hidden beneath desert sand, it waits for your thirst. And when you become still enough to feel that thirst, not in the body, but in the soul, that's when the cup appears. So before we journey inward, I invite you to like and subscribe, but only if it truly resonates with your soul. You find yourself holding a cup, simple, weightless, but radiant. It has no form you can describe, yet you know it's real. Not in your hands, but in your heart. This is the cup of stillness. It has been with you all along, but you only see it when your eyes are closed. You only feel it when your thoughts become soft enough to dissolve. In the outer world, stillness is rare, but within you, it is eternal. The cup awaits, not as a reward, but as your inheritance. You do not need to earn it. You only need to remember that it's yours. The cup of stillness is not filled with words or rituals. It is filled with presence, with the I am that speaks without speaking. You drink not through lips, but through awareness. The more you notice it, the fuller it becomes. The more silent you become, the more it overflows. You do not chase this cup. You return to it. You do not lift it. You become it. You are the hollow space through which the divine pours its essence into form. You are the stillness that waits at the center of all doing. You are the calm beneath the waves, the breath beneath the noise, the watcher of every wandering thought. What happens when you let yourself be still? The world begins to soften. The mind no longer commands, it listens. The heart no longer strives, it opens. And the presence that always was now becomes the presence you feel. In the language of Emmet Fox, God is always where you are, not far, not coming, not hiding, but present. The reason you feel distance is not because God has moved away, but because your awareness has wandered. Stillness is the path back. Stillness is the gate that was never closed. Imagine sipping from a cup that holds no liquid, yet satisfies all hunger. That is the cup of stillness. It is not found in a temple of stone, but in the hush between thoughts. It lives between your inhale and exhale, in that sacred pause where eternity gently brushes against time. You do not need more to be filled. You need less, fewer distractions, fewer expectations, fewer voices telling you who to be. Stillness is subtraction. Stillness is the art of spiritual remembering. Right now, in this moment, you are returning, not to a belief system, not to a doctrine, but to a presence. And this presence is not separate from you. It is you. You are the vessel. You are the offering. You are the altar and the flame and the silence in which all things are made new. This is why the cup of stillness waits, because it is not a gift you receive, but a truth you embody. And every time you rest into this inner space, you are drinking from the well of I am. You are tasting the divine within yourself. And you are reminded gently, profoundly, that all you seek is already here. You are whole, you are home, you are held. And in the silence of your being, the cup overflows. The river beneath all thought flows silently, carrying what the mind cannot grasp and the world cannot name. It does not argue, it does not insist. It simply is. You return to it not by force or effort, but by release. The moment you let go of the noise, the striving, the need to know, you feel it again, that sacred current, that quiet movement of God within. You are not the storm that passes overhead. You are the river beneath, unmoved, steady, and always flowing. And the river leads always to the well. Thought rises like mist above this stream. Sometimes the mist becomes dense, fear, anxiety, wanting, memory. But the river remains, always. Stillness is not the absence of thinking, it is the remembering that you are not your thoughts. You do not need to stop them, only to notice them passing like clouds across a sky that has never been disturbed. Beneath the mind's noise, beneath its stories, lives this current. This is your access to God. When you stop wrestling with thought, you discover something deeper, awareness itself, that which sees the thoughts but is not made of them, that which watches the inner landscape with quiet compassion. This awareness is the beginning of stillness. It is the cup gently filling. You may wonder, how do I drink from what I cannot hold? You already are. Every time you surrender, every time you release your grip on what you think you need to figure out, you sip from the stream of presence. The I am within you does not require proof. It does not demand perfection. It only waits for you to come back to yourself, to drop the mask, the task, the timeline, and to be, just be. And in being, something shifts, gently, profoundly. You begin to feel a sweetness that doesn't come from the world. You begin to trust an unfolding that is deeper than logic. You begin to remember that your life is not random, but radiant with divine design. Stillness is where that remembrance awakens. You sit in the quiet, and the river begins to speak, not in language, but in light, not in form, but in knowing. You feel it in the body, a loosening in the chest, a breath that carries no burden, a spaciousness that was always there, waiting for you to return. And perhaps for a moment you feel free, not because anything changed on the outside, but because you stopped trying to control it. You stopped resisting what is. You stopped feeding the noise. You drank deeply of the quiet. This river has no name, yet every mystic has known it. Jesus withdrew to it. The Buddha sat by it. Rumi danced in it. And you return to it now, not as a stranger, but as its child. This is the river that empties into the cup of stillness, and it never runs dry. All your questions dissolve here. All your striving unravels. There is no need to ask, how do I, or when will it, or what if? There is only this. You are here, you are held. And beneath all thought, you are whole. Let the river carry you now, not to somewhere else, but deeper into yourself. You don't need to try. You don't need to know. Just be still and let it flow. You are the vessel, not the storm. All around you winds may howl. The world may tremble with unrest, decisions, news, noise. The mind may rise with waves of urgency. But you, at your essence, are the still cup, not the chaos that rushes past. Storms are temporary, the vessel endures. And it is within that vessel, your inner sanctuary, that something sacred begins to fill. There is a great misunderstanding that says peace comes only when the winds have died, when the world grows silent, when all is resolved. But the truth is quieter still. Peace does not wait for calm, it creates it. Peace begins not in the absence of motion, but in your presence amid it. You are not here to master the storm. You are here to remember you are not it. The thoughts may swirl, let them. The emotions may rise, bless them. But you, beloved, are not made of those things. You are the one who sees. You are the one who remains. You are the space in which all things pass through. When you claim your seat as the vessel, you no longer need to fix every ripple. You begin to watch. You begin to soften. You begin to listen deeply. And that's when the cup of stillness begins to brim with something unseen yet deeply known, presence. The I am within you does not flinch in the face of storms. It does not shake when opinions rise. It does not scatter in fear. The I am is the unchanging flame, the light that does not go out, the breath beneath the breath. You are not separate from that. So when the world is loud, go inward. When doubt rises, do not wrestle. Sit quietly and remember who watches it arise. When uncertainty knocks, open the door with silence and allow peace to answer. This is not detachment. It is holy union. You are not turning away from the world. You are reclaiming the world from within. And the inner life becomes your compass, not the headlines or the patterns or the rushing of others. You return again and again to this knowing, I am the vessel, I am held, I am empty enough to be filled by something greater than thought. This is not weakness. It is power in its highest form, the power of divine receptivity, the power of trust, the power of knowing that the Creator lives not in clouds or temples, but in you. You are the living cup. You are the open chalice. And every time you remember this, the storm begins to serve you. Its winds clear what no longer belongs. Its rains soften what once felt hardened. Its thunder calls you deeper inward, not to hide, but to rise. The vessel is not empty to be lacking. It is empty to be ready. So now sit in your own stillness. Feel your breath deepen. Let your shoulders drop. Release the need to fix, figure out, or respond. Let it all fall away. And as you rest in this holy hollow, feel the fullness that begins to pour in. It is not made of answers. It is made of being, not made of noise, but of knowing. You are the vessel, and the storm cannot touch what is eternal within you. There is a doorway that does not open outward. It opens inward, always inward. You cannot find it by walking. You cannot reach it by striving. But when you grow still enough, soft enough, willing enough, you realize you are already standing within it. It's the entrance to the sanctuary of I Am, and it has never been far from you. In truth, it has never moved. The outer doors, the doors of ambition, of effort, of needing to be seen, will always ask you to push. But this doorway only asks you to remember. It opens not through effort, but through surrender. And when it opens, you do not enter a new place. You enter the truth of who you have always been. Stillness is not a practice you perform. It is a returning, a sacred homecoming. You do not become worthy to drink from the cup of presence. You realize you never stopped being worthy. Right now, something in you knows. That soft ache in your chest is not pain, it is invitation. The longing you feel is not lack, it is the echo of remembrance. The I Am within you is not behind you or before you. It is here, breathing as you, waiting to be noticed. And all it asks is this: will you turn inward? Not as escape, but as revelation. Not to reject the world, but to see it rightly, from the inside out. This inward turning is not selfish, it is sacred. It is how the lotus blooms, how the pearl is formed, how the prophet hears. Everything holy begins with the inward gaze. And as you turn inward now, you begin to sense a warmth, not on your skin, but in your being. It is the radiance of presence. It does not declare itself loudly. It hums, it glows, it sings in silence. It waits without waiting. It loves without condition. The cup you hold is not in your hand. It is in your stillness. And every time you say yes to this inward turning, the cup fills a little more, not with knowledge, but with knowing, not with information, but with insight. The kind that comes not in words, but in waves, not in thought, but in peace. You were never meant to live on the surface. You are not here to skim across the top of life, collecting moments. You are here to dwell in depth, to anchor your awareness in the well of spirit, to drink from what is eternal. And that requires nothing but your presence. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to be ready. You only need to be still enough to turn inward and willing enough to stay. Because once you taste the depth of the I Am, everything else becomes quieter. The clamor of approval, the urgency of doing, the chase for significance, they all begin to fall away. And what remains is you, only you, not the role, not the title, not the name, just the awareness, just the being, just the light. And in that light there is no fear, only knowing. You are already home. You sit before the well, and the waters do not rush. They wait, patient, eternal, unchanging, not to be earned, not to be conquered, only to be received. The mind may try to measure this moment, to wrap it in logic or compare it to what came before. But here, in this stillness, measurement dissolves. There is only depth. There is only presence. There is only the knowing that you are not separate from the water. You are of it. The well of I Am is not a destination you arrive at. It is a presence you remember, and as you breathe into this remembering, something deep inside you loosens. That knot of trying, that tension of needing to prove or become or fix, it softens, because you begin to see the truth was never somewhere else. It was always here, waiting in the background of your being. As Emmet Fox once taught, the presence of God is like the presence of the air, silent, invisible, but always available. You do not create the presence, you open to it, and the moment you do, the well begins to rise, not in rushing force, but in sacred rhythm. You do not need to draw from it, you only need to stop resisting it. The moment you release your grip on doing, it begins to flow. You are not the one who makes the stillness, you are the one who allows it. The I Am does not come with thunder, it comes with breath. It comes with a gentle sense of return, a remembrance of how deeply you already belong. You were never separate, you only thought you were. Stillness is not the reward for getting it right, it's the inheritance you've never lost. And every time you turn to the well, every time you choose presence over panic, every time you pause and listen, you remember the truth. You are already whole, already held, already home. Let the waters rise now, not to cleanse you of wrongness, but to baptize you in truth. Let them flow through your mind, your body, your heart, not washing away who you are, but revealing it. You do not need to earn stillness, you only need to stop hiding from it. And the hiding ends now, because you are ready. Ready not for more knowledge, but for the knowing that cannot be taught. Ready not for more doing, but for deeper being. Ready to taste the waters of I Am and let them carry you home. So sit now, feel the well within you, do not try to drink, simply open, and let it pour. Imagine now that you are standing beside a still and ancient river, one that does not rush, does not roar, but instead hums with the quiet power of eternity. This river does not begin or end. It flows not through the land, but through the very center of your being. It is the river beneath the silence. It is the word before words, the current of pure spirit before thought takes shape. In the sacred hush of inner stillness, you can begin to feel it, not with the senses, but with the soul, not as movement, but as peace in motion. It does not ask anything of you, it only waits for you to remember it is there. This is the stream of divine supply. This is the law of flow, unforced, unhurried, and unceasing. Just as a mountain spring does not question whether it should rise, the divine within you does not question whether it should bless. But it can only be known in stillness, for stillness is its native language. The river does not shout, it sings in silence, so you become still, not merely with the body, but with the breath of thought itself. You lay down your striving, your seeking, your struggle to figure it out. You let go. You become quiet, not as an act of retreat, but as a sacred surrender to what already is. Have you ever wondered why the most powerful wisdom often comes in whispers? Why answers arrive not in noise, but in dreams, in prayer, in the gentle clarity of a walk alone? It is because truth lives in stillness. In stillness, there is no interference, only reception. In stillness, spirit has room to speak. And now you remember, you do not need to chase your good. It is already here, moving through you like an invisible current, nourishing, guiding, revealing. But you must slow down enough to feel it. Just as the river shapes the stone, not with force, but with devotion, your soul is shaped in the hush. Each time you sit in quiet, you bathe in the inner stream. You are not seeking stillness, you are becoming stillness. In the still heart, divine flow awakens. Ideas begin to arrive, not hurried thoughts, but sacred impressions. Insights come as ripples across the water, gentle, lasting, true. They come not to dazzle, but to direct. This is the wisdom of the kingdom within. You feel it now, don't you? That deep calm, as if the whole world has paused inside your chest, that is the presence. That is the I am revealing itself through peace. When Emmet Fox taught of the power of consciousness, he was pointing to this, that the mind quieted becomes a vessel through which the infinite speaks. There is a river inside you, and it does not run dry. No matter how arid the surface of your life may seem, no matter how many desert days you've wandered through, the water beneath has never ceased. Your role is only to return, to dip again the cup of your awareness into its flow. Drink deeply now, not with haste, not with thirst, but with holy remembrance. You have never been cut off. You have only been distracted by the noise of the outer world. That noise has no power here. It vanishes in the presence of your sacred attention. Notice what happens when you remain in this stillness. Tensions loosen, the breath lengthens, the heart softens, ideas align. You begin to perceive not with eyes, but with light. You begin to hear not with ears, but with knowing. In this space, you are no longer the thinker. You are the witness. You are the presence through which thinking passes, like wind through tall grass. You observe, but you do not hold. You hear, but you are not pulled. You remember, I am not this thought. I am the one who watches. And in watching, you align with divine flow. Now, let the river rise, not as a flood of activity, but as a tide of grace. Let it carry you, not to effort, but to effortless unfolding. Your dreams need not be wrestled into being. They are cradled by the current of the Spirit. Trust the hush more than the noise. Trust the pause more than the push. Trust that your path is already known by the still waters within. When the outside world says, do more, let the river say, be still and know. You are not the maker of the river. You are its beloved. You are the one who listens, who floats, who drinks, who remembers. Each time you choose stillness, you return to your source. Each time you choose silence, you say yes to God's law in action. Let this be your prayer. I rest in the river. I trust its path. I need not understand where it flows. I only need to be present as it moves. Now feel that movement again. It is subtle. It is sacred. It is you. There is a hollow space inside of you that once frightened you. A place that felt too quiet, too bare, too uncertain to dwell in for long. You tried to fill it with words, with work, with others, with explanations. But no matter how much you added, it echoed. That emptiness echoed. And you mistook the echo for a lack, for something broken, something incomplete. But now, beloved soul, you are beginning to see that emptiness is not a void of lack. It is the womb of spirit. It is the sacred space God left open in you so the infinite could pour itself in. You were never meant to carry fullness made by your own effort. You were meant to be filled by grace. And grace does not fill crowded vessels. It seeks open space, willing space. It seeks the soul that has emptied itself of noise and become a holy cup. So you empty, not from despair, but from devotion. You release not because you are losing, but because you are allowing. You let go of the shoulds, the needs, the mental inventory of unfinished becoming. You do not need to prove your worthiness to receive. The vessel does not earn its filling. It simply waits, open and unresisting. This is the paradox. The more you surrender what you thought you needed, the more you remember what you already have. The more you rest into sacred emptiness, the more spirit overflows, not with clamor, but with clarity. Have you ever stood in a room after all the guests have left? How peaceful the silence feels, how generous the space. That is what your soul becomes when it is no longer filled with expectation, explanation, and effort. It becomes a sanctuary, a place where presence is felt more than understood. In this emptiness, new life begins to form, not because you planned it, but because you allowed space for it. Divine fullness cannot be managed. It can only be received. And receiving requires emptiness. You see now that what once felt like loss was sacred making way. That silence was never absence. It was presence too subtle for noise. What you thought was lack was the law preparing room for fulfillment. The I Am fills what you empty. It breathes where you release. It moves where you soften. But it will not force itself into a space already full of striving. It waits, quietly, faithfully, until you stop trying to be full and remember how to be still. Emptiness is not a punishment. It is a blessing. It is the divine pause between inhale and exhale, the fertile hush before the seed breaks open. It is not a death, but a preparation for resurrection. You are not void. You are vessel. You are not without. You are ready. This is the moment when the inner cup begins to glisten. You feel it, not with thought, but with holy ache. That sweet ache of readiness, that sacred sense that something new is coming, not from outside, but from deep within the stillness you dared to enter. Emmet Fox taught that blessing comes in disguise, and tonight you begin to unmask that blessing. You realize that emptiness was never your enemy. It was your invitation to remember that fullness is not something you build. It is something you receive. So, you sit in the silence, not waiting. There is a place beyond thought, beyond seeking, beyond the endless grasp for answers. It is not built of stone or time, but of memory, not memory as the mind holds it, but memory as the soul knows it. This place is not found in books, nor unlocked by cleverness. It is entered through stillness. It is remembered, not discovered. It is the temple of remembrance, and it lives in you. You do not need to build it, only to return. As your breath softens, as the inner waters settle, a threshold emerges, not before you, but within you. It is the hush between thoughts, the space just before the next desire, the moment of pure being that needs nothing, seeks nothing, lacks nothing. That is the door. When you pass through, you do not walk into a doctrine or a dogma. You enter into direct knowing, quiet, radiant, wordless knowing. You remember who you are, not as concept, but as essence. You remember not what happened, but what has always been. Here, there is no fear, because fear only lives in forgetting. Here, there is no shame, because shame only clings to illusion. Here, you are not separate. You have never been separate. The temple welcomes you not with commandments, but with presence. Its walls are not made of shoulds and musts, but of light. Its altar is your willingness to be here, now with nothing in your hands but openness. This sacred place within is where God remembers you, even when you forget. It is where the I Am dwells as a gentle flame, unextinguished by the winds of the world. You need not beg to enter. You were never cast out. You only need to look inward. Emmet Fox once said that divine remembrance is the key to transformation, not remembering facts, but remembering truth, that you are not your wounds, your worries, your wandering mind. You are light clothed in experience. You are soul wrapped in story. But beneath all that, eternal, unchanging, you are the image divine. So in this temple you rest. You remember not with effort, but with surrender. You let truth rise, not through argument, but through peace. Have you noticed how the mind races when it forgets the soul? How it seeks answers in the outer noise, in the busyness of becoming? But when you sit in the still temple of remembrance, all need to fix, change, or grasp dissolves. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to remember you were never broken. The altar flame flickers now, warming the walls of this inner place, and you recall, not in thought, but in breath, that all you've sought is already within. You have always known the way. The voice of God has always been your voice, softened by silence. Here, prayer is not a plea, but a presence. Here, the divine does not answer. You awaken to the truth that there was never a question. This is the place where wisdom rests its head, where the law of spirit speaks in the language of light, where all paths merge in one still point of being. You are not an outsider here. You are the beloved. You are the temple and the one who enters. You are the silence and the sound it reveals. You are the flame and the air it dances in. Take off your shoes, metaphysically speaking. This ground is holy, not because of where it is, but because of what it reveals. Each time you return to this inner temple, something softens. The old patterns loosen their grip. The striving ceases. You no longer seek miracles, you become them. You no longer ask the light to appear, you realize you are its expression. Nothing remains to be done in this place. You are not a project to be completed, a soul to be repaired. You are whole. You are here. You are holy. And in this remembering, healing happens, not as a task, but as a truth revealed. Now breathe. Gently. Let the breath be your candle. Let each inhale be a step into deeper quiet. Let each exhale carry away what no longer belongs. You are in the temple now. You are the temple now. Let your stillness be your offering. Let your awareness be your prayer. Here in the hush, you are held. You are remembered. You are free. In the sacred center of your being, there is a light that has never gone out. Not for a moment. Not in the loneliest hour. Not beneath your heaviest grief. Not even when you turned from it. It continued, gentle, patient, eternal, waiting without judgment, burning without smoke, a flame that needs no fuel. This flame is not kept alive by effort. You do not stoke it with willpower or moral rigor. You cannot make it brighter through deeds, nor dim it through failure. It is not yours to control. It is yours to receive. This flame is your birthright. This is the Christ light, the God spark, the I am presence that glows not in some distant heaven, but in the unseen sanctuary of your soul. It is the inner sun that never sets. And tonight, you turn toward it, not as a student striving to learn, but as a soul ready to remember. You do not need to become the light. You need only stop pretending you are not it. You breathe in, and in the pause that follows, you feel it, warm, soft, unwavering. It has waited for this, your stillness, your readiness, your return. Have you not longed for a presence that asks nothing, yet gives everything? Have you not wondered if there was something in you that could never be taken, never be lost? This is it, the flame that asks no proof, the light that asks no title, the presence that remains when all else falls away. Emmet Fox wrote that this inner fire is the true presence of God in the soul. It does not punish. It does not waver. It simply is. You may have wandered far from its warmth. You may have lit other fires, fires of ambition, of ego, of restlessness. But none satisfied for long. None gave the peace that passes understanding, because this flame, this divine glow, does not burn with the heat of striving. It radiates with the stillness of being. It does not flare to impress. It simply shines. It knows who it is. And now, so do you. In the center of your temple, beneath the silence, beyond the memory, this flame waits without impatience. It does not hurry you. It does not beg for your attention. It only offers light. And in that light, you begin to see again, not with eyes, but with soul. You see that nothing you've done has extinguished your worth. You see that no shadow has ever cast itself deep enough to reach the heart of this flame. You see that you have never been alone, and so you sit before it, quiet, reverent, not to worship, but to become, not to ask, but to allow. You let the light do what light does. You let it illuminate. You let it warm the forgotten places, the tired places, the places where belief once flickered but no longer burned. And slowly, gently, your inner life begins to rearrange itself, not around fear or urgency, but around this presence. You begin to live from the flame, not from the flicker. You begin to walk not in reaction, but in radiance. This is the essence of spiritual power, not to manipulate, but to abide, not to command the outer, but to remain centered in the inner. And in that centering, everything changes, not because you forced it, but because light makes all things visible. And once seen in light, all fear begins to dissolve. You are not a seeker anymore. You are a bearer, a lighthouse, a holy hearth. You carry the flame that needs no fuel. So tonight, you need not strive. You need not fix. You need not earn. You need only be. Let your thoughts grow still. Let the light rise. Let yourself remember what has always been true, that within you is the presence of God, burning softly, steadily, eternally. And from that light you will live. Imagine for a moment that breath is not just air, but memory, a thread not only keeping the body alive, but weaving the soul gently back into truth. With each inhale, you do not merely fill your lungs, you receive a divine invitation. And with each exhale, you do not simply release carbon, you surrender illusion. There is a breath beneath all breathing. It comes from a place untouched by time, untamed by effort. It is the sacred rhythm that pulses in you now, even as you listen. It is not taught, yet it teaches. It does not speak, yet it restores. This is the breath between worlds, the still golden seam between matter and mystery, between what is seen and what is known. Here, the inner and outer do not battle, they blend. You have spent much of life moving in the external, fixing, doing, reaching. But now you begin to sense. The deeper work is not outward, it is inward, and it begins with the breath. Breathe in. Feel the presence move toward you, not from above, but from within. Breathe out. Feel the veil grow thinner until all that separates you from peace is an illusion falling away. Emmet Fox once said, "God is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet." In this moment you begin to understand, not with the mind but with the soul, that this breath you ride is the very spirit of life expressing itself through you. You are not breathing to survive. You are breathing to remember the center, to remember the silence that lives beneath every sound, to remember that before the name, before the form, before the story, you simply were, and you still are. You begin to notice the space between breaths is not empty. It is full of presence, of peace, of sacred invitation. It is the doorway through which God enters without knocking. And so, with reverence, you stay. You dwell in the pause. You rest in the exhale. You listen, not with ears, but with essence. In this space you are not small. You are whole. In this space you are not late. You are eternal. In this space nothing needs fixing. Everything simply needs allowing. You return again and again, not by thought, but by breath. You do not force your way in. You float. There is no hurry in God, no urgency in spirit, no clock ticking in the heart of the infinite, and so you surrender your time, your tension, your to-do list into this breath. Let it all dissolve in the light between the inhale and the exhale. Here you find something rare, something holy, a knowing not based on fact but on feeling, a truth not recited but remembered, that you are not separate, that you are not lost, that the source you seek has been breathing you all along. And in that recognition, something melts, something old, something hard, something guarded. You no longer need to carry the mask of control. You no longer need to pretend you are alone. The breath reminds you. You are guided. You are held. You are accompanied by the very essence of God in each breath you take. You are safe to be soft. You are safe to be still. You are safe to be whole. So let yourself linger. Let the breath become your anchor and your altar. Let this sacred rhythm draw you deeper than thought, past belief, into the living awareness of your divine self. You are not visiting the spirit. You are remembering that you are it. In the breath between worlds, you do not travel anywhere. You simply arrive. Arrive in yourself. Arrive in the now. Arrive in the eternal presence where all things are already known, already whole, already healed. This is the breath that birthed you. This is the breath that carries you home. And here you rest. No longer reaching, no longer striving, just being, just breathing, just remembering. Breathing. There is a cave within you, silent and sacred, not made of stone or sorrow, but of stillness, A place so quiet, even your thoughts bow low upon entering. And yet, within this darkness, there is a lamp, always burning. You may not have seen it often. You may have wandered through the outer world chasing candles that flickered and died. But this flame has never gone out. It was lit the moment you were born, and perhaps long before that. This is the lamp of divine presence, and it lives in the heart of your being. It does not burn for others to see, it burns to show you the way back home. When Emmet Fox spoke of the Christ light, he did not mean a distant Savior in history. He spoke of the indwelling light, that quiet, radiant presence that exists in every person waiting to be remembered. It does not force, it does not argue, it simply shines. And when you stop long enough, soften fully enough, the shadows begin to part. Not because the darkness is wrong, but because the light is true. You do not need to chase this light. You only need to turn inward, like entering a cave with reverence, candle in hand, ready to remember, ready to see without eyes, ready to feel without fear. The lamp within the cave is not your imagination. It is your inheritance. It is your identity. And in its glow, you remember that guidance has never left you. That clarity does not come from information, but from illumination. You have tried, perhaps, to make decisions from the mind, calculating, debating, wondering which path is correct. But the lamp offers a different wisdom. It does not speak in words. It whispers in knowing. Here's how it works. When your attention returns inward, when your breath slows, when your mind bows, the lamp glows brighter, and suddenly the answers that felt distant come into focus, not as commands, but as deep peace. You no longer need to ask, "What should I do?" Instead, you begin to ask, "What feels aligned with the light within me?" And the lamp responds not by telling, but by revealing. You may not see the whole staircase. You may only see the next step, but that is enough. Because when the inner light leads, there is no rush. When the inner light leads, even the journey itself becomes a blessing. Even the waiting becomes sacred. Even the silence becomes guidance. So you return to this inner cave not once, but daily. You choose this sanctuary again and again until the world outside no longer feels louder than the light within. The lamp does not need oil. It feeds on your willingness. It brightens with your stillness. It grows as your faith returns. And so you learn to live from the lamp, to speak from the lamp, to choose from the lamp, to trust that if your outer world dims, your inner flame will carry you through. This is not just meditation. This is initiation. You are no longer living from reaction. You are living from remembrance. And every time you do, the world shifts, not because it changed, but because you saw it through the light. So let the lamp guide you. Let it be enough. Let it remind you that within the cave of your own being, there is nothing to fear and everything to find. The shadows were never your enemy. They simply showed you where the lamp longed to shine. Somewhere past the noise of your thoughts, just beyond the edges of mental chatter, lies a sacred garden, not made of petals or grass, but of something far more enduring, divine ideas waiting to be remembered. It isn't accessed through effort, but through surrender, a quiet breath, a moment of release, and there it is, emerging softly, like morning light through mist. Emmet Fox often spoke of this inner field, where sacred seeds are sown not by doing, but by being. Here peace grows not because you demanded it, but because you allowed it. At first it seems empty, but as your awareness begins to soften, you notice delicate forms awakening. A single thought of gratitude begins to bloom like a rose. Forgiveness trails along like ivy, gently loosening the grip of old pain. And something deep within you stirs, a knowing that you've arrived, not somewhere new, but somewhere familiar. This garden lives behind every worry, beneath every story you've told yourself. It waits in the silence, never demanding, always available. Rather than push thoughts away, you begin to watch them. Like clouds over a tranquil landscape, they pass. No longer storms, just weather. And beneath them, the soil remains fertile. Clarity doesn't arrive in answers, but in stillness. Direction emerges not as command, but as deep alignment. There's no longer a need to chase outcomes. Your attention becomes the sun, nurturing what matters. You start noticing how the inner shapes the outer, how every kind thought you plant blossoms into peace-filled action, how every loving intention bears fruit in ways seen and unseen. In this sacred space, your mind is no longer a battlefield. It becomes a sanctuary, one that you tend with presence rather than perfection. Judgment softens, comparison fades, and in its place grows compassion for yourself, for others, for the mystery unfolding around you. This is not a garden of striving, it's a garden of allowing. And you, dear listener, are not its owner, but its steward. You kneel before its mystery, watering what is true, pruning what no longer serves, trusting the quiet rhythm of growth. Even moments of doubt are welcome here. They remind you to return, to breathe, to listen. For the whispers of spirit are never loud. They speak in wind-stirred leaves, in the echo of a silent yes within your chest. Rather than seeking to fix the world, you begin to embody the change. Peace becomes the language you speak. Stillness, the ground from which your words emerge. You no longer search for signs. You become the sign. A walking garden carrying sacred fragrance through the marketplace of life. Each morning you visit this place, not as a ritual of performance, but of remembering. Each evening you return, not to escape, but to reconnect. And slowly the veil lifts. The world, once noisy and sharp-edged, begins to soften in your gaze, not because it changed, but because you did. This is the quiet revolution, the gentle turning inward that transforms all without force. For what is rooted in love needs no defense, so you walk the inner path, barefoot, humble, radiant with the awareness that within you lies not just potential, but presence. You don't need to convince, you simply embody, and the garden behind your mind becomes the very landscape through which divine grace flows. Within you there exists a vibration more ancient than language, a resonance so familiar it feels like a homecoming whispered through silence. This is not a sound heard by the ears, but felt in the deep places of your being. It arrives softly, like light returning through a break in the clouds. Not a noise, but a knowing. It does not call you forward, but inward. This is the bell of returning. Its tone arises not from striving or searching, but from surrender. A surrender to presence, to what is, to the eternal now where spirit quietly dwells. Emmet Fox once said that the presence of God is closer than breath, nearer than thought. And yet, it's easy to forget. Easy to drift into the outer world, to lose your center in the swirl of demands and distractions. But the soul does not condemn you for wandering. It only waits with open arms, echoing gently across your consciousness until you pause, turn, and remember. Even a single breath taken in stillness can bridge the distance. A gentle exhale becomes the path back to sacred ground. There is no judgment in this return, only welcome, like finding your own handwriting in an old book and remembering who you were before the forgetting. In this space of reunion, clarity emerges without effort. It is not something you chase, but something that rises within. The need to control fades, replaced by a quiet confidence in divine order. Answers become less important than alignment. Stillness becomes more nourishing than certainty. Here, you begin to understand that life is not asking you to prove yourself. It is asking you to remember yourself. Not through grand declarations, but through quiet, conscious embodiment. A look of compassion, a word spoken in love, a choice made from peace rather than fear. With each moment of return, the sacred self grows more accessible. What once felt far becomes near, what once seemed vague becomes intimate, And so the veil thins, not through effort, but through gentle attention. The world doesn't need your striving, it needs your remembrance. When you live from this space, you become a sanctuary, an embodied echo of that timeless bell, not through instruction, but by presence, not by asking others to wake up, but by awakening yourself. In your stillness, others find their way back. In your peace, others feel safe to rest. And in your example, the path becomes visible again. This is the quiet revolution of spirit, a return that reshapes without resistance, a turning inward that transforms the outer world through vibration alone. When you walk in remembrance, the universe bends gently toward you, responding not to your wants, but to your being. There's no need to announce your awakening. Let your life become the testimony. Let your breath become the altar. Let the way you live ring out the truth more clearly than any spoken word. And if in some moment you feel lost again, know this: you are never far from home. The stillness is not somewhere you go. It is who you are beneath the noise. Let your return be soft. Let it be simple. Let it begin now, with this breath, with this pause, with this remembrance. The bell is ringing, not to summon you forward, but to bring you back to the sanctuary within. There is something quiet that weaves through your life, not loud or dramatic, but steady and alive. You may not always notice it, yet it's been there from the beginning, a golden thread of divine alignment. It doesn't tug or demand, it simply waits to be remembered, to be felt. Not with the eyes, but with the inner sense of harmony that stirs when life flows from within. Perhaps you've felt it during moments when things fell into place with graceful timing, or when you met someone who answered a question you hadn't yet spoken aloud. Those gentle synchronicities aren't coincidences. They are echoes of the golden thread, evidence of a higher rhythm threading you into alignment, into peace. Emmet Fox taught that divine order isn't something we impose, it is something we yield to. And so, this thread doesn't require you to strive, but to soften. You don't need to pull it tighter or twist it to match your desires. It's already woven into your journey. Your only task is to attune. In the busyness of the world, it's easy to forget. You search for signs, grasp for control, and try to force timing. But the more you grip, the dimmer the thread becomes. The truth is, it doesn't respond to urgency, it responds to presence. As you slow down and listen, not to the noise but to the quiet beneath it, the path reveals itself. Following the thread is not about finding the next step as much as it is about being deeply here, in this breath, in this moment. When you're aligned, you know. It's not a thought, it's a feeling. You act without tension, speak without proving, and move without rushing. The thread hums through everything you touch, drawing you into situations, connections, and moments that nourish your soul. It may guide you in ways you didn't expect. Sometimes it asks you to release something you thought you needed. Sometimes it closes doors to open new dimensions. At times, it will call you to rest instead of act, to forgive instead of explain, to trust without seeing. And as you say yes to its subtle voice, life starts to shimmer, not because it's perfect, but because you are present within it. This golden alignment is not about having all the answers. It's about remembering that you are part of something whole, something wise. And from that remembrance, right action arises, not through force, but through flow. You begin to notice the sacredness in the ordinary. A conversation becomes a teaching, a delay becomes a blessing, a pause becomes the place where light enters. Even when you're unsure, you are not unheld. The thread never leaves, even if your awareness wanders. It runs through every version of you, past, present, and becoming. In returning to it, you are not going back. You are moving inward, deeper into harmony with the divine intelligence that dreamed you into being. You don't need to announce this alignment. Let it show through how you listen, how you breathe, how you show up without needing to be seen. Let it shape your choices, not by pressure, but by peace. And in that space you become the golden thread for others, reminding them, not with words, but with presence, that they too are being guided. So if you ever lose sight of where you're going, don't panic. Just pause. Breathe. Feel. The thread is always within reach, always waiting for your soft return. It's not in the noise of the world, but in the stillness of your soul. And from that stillness, everything flows. There comes a moment when words begin to fall away, when teachings have done their work, and the path no longer stretches forward, but folds gently inward. You do not arrive at this silence through effort or understanding. You arrive because something in you has remembered a soundless truth that was always there, waiting behind the noise, the striving, and the questions. This is the silence that does not ask you to withdraw from life, but to see life differently. You begin to realize that silence isn't the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper. A presence that holds, listens, and blesses. A presence that does not need to speak, because it already knows. Inside this silence, your mind no longer needs to explain or defend. The heart no longer needs to earn worth. Even the soul no longer longs for proof. You are simply here, whole and known. Not because you did something to deserve it, but because it could never be otherwise. Emmet Fox often spoke of the Christ within, not as a distant figure, but as the divine pattern sleeping in every person, waiting to be remembered. This silence is where that remembrance begins. It is not loud. It does not convince. It unfolds like dawn, soft, patient, unshakable. And so you listen, not with ears, but with the stillness of your being. You begin to hear what you once overlooked, the wisdom in the breath, the teaching in the pause, the invitation in the present. No longer rushing to fix or reach, you allow yourself to be. And in that allowing, the temple opens. You walk not into a building, but into a space within, a chamber where nothing is broken and nothing is missing. You don't need a guide here. You don't even need a map. Everything that matters is already within you, etched in sacred light across the walls of your inner sanctuary. This is where the I Am meets you, not in words, but in knowing, not in action, but in presence. You begin to see that you are not seeking God. You are revealing what has always been inseparable from you. In this place, the outer world may continue its motion, but you are no longer at its mercy. You have touched the ground beneath it all, the silence that cannot be shaken. Even if challenges arise, you now meet them from within the temple, not as problems to solve, but as invitations to return. What once felt chaotic now feels rhythmic. What once felt random now feels ordered. What once felt separate now feels whole. You no longer need signs because your being itself is the sign. You are not waiting for peace. You are peace remembering itself. You are not calling for healing. You are the one who knows that healing is the recognition of what has always been whole. You are not on your way to the sacred. You are the sacred, awake within itself. And so in this final turning inward, you let go of trying, let go of proving, let go of explaining. You let go because you trust. And in that trust, the silence deepens, not into emptiness, but into fullness. Here, the cup of stillness is not something you reach for. It is something that rises to meet you. And as you drink from it, not with your lips, but with your spirit, you taste what no language can name. The I Am is no longer an idea. It is no longer a mystery. It is no longer distant. It is the pulse beneath your breath, the light behind your thoughts, the source that has always held you, even when you forgot. Now you remember, and now you rest. A gentle closing to the journey. Now that we have come to the still center, there is nothing more to do. Let your breath move as it wishes, unhurried and soft. Let your body grow heavier with each exhale, as if the very earth is welcoming you home. There is nothing to fix, nothing to hold. Every teaching, every symbol, Every whispered truth has led you back to this, your own sacred presence. Let the silence cradle you like warm light, wrapping you in remembrance. You are not separate from the divine. You are the place where the divine meets itself. You are not a seeker in the dark. You are the light that has remembered itself. As the voice fades, let the stillness deepen. You are safe now. You are held in the arms of something ancient and eternal. There is a rhythm beneath all things, and you are in step with it now. Let the mind rest. Let the thoughts soften like petals closing in the night. You are enough. You are whole. You are home. Nothing more remains to be done. All is well. All is unfolding. All is already here. And so, as you slip into the quiet mystery of rest, may you be blessed by the golden thread of peace that runs through all things. Let the cup be full. Let the silence speak. Let your soul rest in the sanctuary of being.